Now hear this.
Now hear this.
Now hear this.
Now hear
Now hear this.
this.
Now hear this.
Now hear this.
You are now listening to Now Hear This on 90.3 WRST FM Oshkosh. This program contains a wide sampling of stories created for you by the Advanced Radio Production class at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. Please stay tuned.
According to the 2012 analysis by the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, there are 105,000 homeless people in Chicago. That's double the population of the city of Oshkosh, and with the current economic status, homelessness is becoming more and more prevalent. Brian Urbanek heads down to Chicago to talk to these people who are being directly affected by the issue.
When seeing a homeless person begging for money or food on the streets, I would imagine that most of us just ignore them, look away, and pretend they aren't even there. We make assumptions about them and their past. But are these assumptions that we make justified? Does the fact that they are homeless mean that they are bad people and we should be scared of them? I would guess that most people have never actually talked to a homeless person, beyond the occasional, "No, sorry, I don't have anything to give you." So, to try and answer these questions, I hit the streets of downtown Chicago to actually talk to some homeless people. Now, I'll admit, I'm usually one of those people who try to ignore the homeless on the sidewalk as much as possible. So, I was a bit nervous as I stepped off the L train at the Chicago Avenue stop and started walking towards the Magnificent Mile. I mean, I've conducted countless interviews in the past, but there was just something about walking up to someone on the streets and randomly asking him or her about their personal lives. But I eventually worked up the courage to do so and was able to talk to a handful of homeless people. Some were very cooperative and friendly.
Hey, Blood, how you doing?
Some appeared to speak little to no English, and others, unfortunately, just didn't seem to have it all there.
Are you with Homeland Security?
I'm not, sir. I'm a student.
But for the most part, I found the homeless of Chicago to be a pleasant bunch.
There we go. Look at that. All right. Have a good day, Shorty.
Okay, you too, Miguel, okay? All right, Brian.
This homeless man, who introduced himself to me simply as Shorty, wasn't able to do an interview. He explained to me he was waiting for a food truck to come by, and he didn't want to miss it. Understandable. Another homeless gentleman, Devon, explains that that's how they acquire a lot of their food and clothing, especially warm clothing, to survive Chicago's harsh winters.
Last year, it took me almost 3-4 months to get a good coat because I was going to shelters, and they got stuff there, but they ain't got really stuff that could keep you warm.
For those of us who have been fortunate enough to have had a home all of our lives, it may be somewhat difficult to think about having to find a place to sleep each night. For these homeless people, it's not only a matter of finding a place to sleep, but finding a place where they can keep somewhat warm and hopefully stay safe.
Okay, the train I catch is the Blue Line. It go to O'Hare all the way back to Forest Park. So I ride back and forth. It's a lot of homeless people that ride the same train, you know. And believe me, it ain't comfortable sleeping on no train, you know. I haven't slept in a bed in so long, I don't even know how to feel to sleep in a bed, you know.
But I didn't go down to Chicago to find out how homeless people live and survive. I wanted to find out their backstories. How did they become homeless? What did they do before they were homeless? What did they think about being homeless? A 60-something-year-old gentleman named Bob is the second man I talked to. I saw him sitting in a wheelchair just a block off Michigan Avenue, holding a sign that said, "Please help, homeless." He said he recently had an operation done on his legs because he is infected with MRSA's, which is a bacterial infection that causes chest pain, fever, chills, and wounds that do not heal. After he explained that, he told me about his childhood. Now, that was not a story that I was mentally prepared for.
My father killed my mother, blew my mother's brains out when I was 6. Stepmother at 13. He raped 3 of my sisters coming up. Give me my first drugs at 10, you know.
But despite Bob's very unfortunate and scary past, he still seemed to be able to do some good things when he wasn't shooting up heroin.
I used to work years ago. Your company went out of business. I used to work for Frederick Woods Foundation to put the financial backing up for the greatest movie ever, Gone with the Wind. I used to work in his offices, sell advertising spaces for newspapers and magazines years ago, and I used to own a pool hall. It used to be on Chicago and Clark.
Bob says he doesn't really have any family that he can fall back on or get support from. And because of that, he thinks of the other people on the streets as part of his family.
I'm here, I'm there. I smile, I greet everybody. I don't ask anybody for money, but people give me some money and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I eat decent.
And sure enough, right after the interview ended, a very generous young lady extended a box towards Bob and offered him a full Chicago-style pizza. After talking to Bob and having another interview under my belt before him, I stopped at Subway to grab a bite for lunch. I was starving, and so biting into my favorite sandwich filled with juicy buffalo chicken and kickin' chipotle was electrifying. But as I was just a few bites into my sandwich, I stopped. I suddenly wasn't hungry anymore. Bob and Devon popped into my mind, and how they would be lucky to get just a couple bites of something all day. They have no idea when their next meal will be. And here I am sitting in Subway, stuffing my face. I had never gone from so-called starving to having no appetite so quickly in my life. But that wasn't the most life-changing experience for my day. Not even close. After leaving Subway and making my way back to Michigan Avenue, I ran into a homeless man named Walter.
I was studying to be a paralegal. I hold an Associate of Applied Science degree in industrial electronics, but no one has ever given me a job. And those skills are but have fallen by the wayside because no one ever given me a chance. Not to say that I couldn't do it. I mean, if you sit me down and put me in front of an oscilloscope and voltmeters and frequency counters, I go to work.
His only backpack sat in front of him, a little ways out into the sidewalk that propped up 2 signs. They didn't say homeless, hungry, poor, or anything like that. They simply said, God is good. And directly in front of him, lying on the concrete, was his most prized possession, a Bible.
People call me the farmer, he who sows the good seed. I turned my life over to God, and I sat down and began to focus on God and what the truth was about me. I didn't care about what the truth was about John, Dick, Harry, Bill, Fred, and Larry. I just wanted to know the truth about me. Am I or am I not capable of being a good person? Can or can I not survive in society with or without a job? And I began to realize that Jesus was all these things.
And although it seems like Walter feels as if becoming homeless was almost a blessing in disguise, that it brought him closer to God, we still need to remember that Walter and these other men are still homeless. There are evils done to these people by those who pass by, as if having nothing isn't bad enough.
I've been poisoned, I've been kicked, I've been slapped, I've been punched, spit on.
But Walter still manages to find the best out of the situation.
Tell you the truth, this ain't a bad place. Cause the only other places I know is jail. So this beat that. So this is better than jail or being dead.
What really amazed me about Walter is his sense of commitment to God. So much in his life has been taken away from him. He could just blame God for doing this to him. He could be angry towards God. But instead, he turns to God and has committed his life to him.
So even Christ said, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you do the will of the Father. So I believe that it's my job to sit and, like a lighthouse or a big city on a hill, shine this light into the world, which is my signs. My signs are my lamps.
And despite being homeless for the past 8 years, he is still able to put all his trust in the Lord.
When I said that I became stranded after I had lost my financial aid in man's college, my being stranded, I have only stranded me in God's college. His textbook is this Bible, but his teachers come from every direction. So every act and every interaction is an experience, but you have to be able to decipher it based on your textbook.
On my way home from Chicago, I recorded my initial thoughts on the experiences from my day.
You know, it was funny because the other two people that I had good interviews with before asked, are you going to buy me lunch or something like that? They were concerned with the money. Walter didn't say anything about money. In fact, I had left after interviewing him forgetting to give him money. And it wasn't until about half an hour later, after I was sitting around the corner thinking, oh, crap, I forgot to give Walter money. And so I went back and he almost didn't take it. He almost didn't take it because he said to me that after I had left the first time and didn't give him money, he thought, oh, that's pretty strange that this guy sat here and talked to me for a while and he wouldn't, he wouldn't even leave $1 when he left. And so when I came back to actually give him money, he said he felt really bad that he thought that and that he couldn't accept it because of that. I eventually convinced him to take the money, but he thought that just the gesture of me coming back to give him the money after forgetting was enough.
Walter was even diagnosed with cancer while being homeless on the streets. And he still put all his faith in God.
And I should have died, but I survived that too. I'm laughing because God is good. My sign says God is good.
So take from these stories what you want. Sitting in the car driving back to Wisconsin that night gave me a lot of time to think. Here's what I took from the day.
I think he felt that him becoming homeless was almost a blessing in disguise. That it brought him closer to God, closer to Jesus, and that he was able to, because of that, study the Bible more closely, and I guess still find something to smile about. And for being homeless on the streets and having cancer, that's amazing. That there's people all around the world with homes, not only homes, but so much money, so many things, so many blessings, and they still can't be happy about it. But Walter, who has nothing, still can find a reason to smile. And that made me think about not only my life, but also how we should live our lives. It's wonderful to see that he can still put his faith in Jesus after all that he's been through. And that's why he wakes up every morning. As a homeless person, what's there to wake up for? What's the point of living, I would imagine. But Walter says, no, there's a reason. Just God is good.
I consider myself a soldier in the battlefield, performing the will of God, which is to remind them that it's God first and not them. That in all that they do, don't forget about God. Don't say me. Don't say I. Don't believe everything you achieve and accomplish got anything to do with you, because it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. I'll just say that I'm a battlefield soldier, and there's a song about the battlefield soldier, and that's when you hear that song, the battlefield soldier, that's who you're talking to.
Listen, I'm a soldier on the battlefield, and I'm fighting.
For Now Hear This, I'm Brian Urbanek, in Chicago.
On this Christian journey, I've had heartaches and pain, sunshine and rain, but I'm fighting, yes I have.
Thank you for tuning in to Now Hear This on 90.3 WRST FM. We now return to your regular scheduled programming.